As the RNG British Talent Cup returns this weekend at Thruxton, let's take a look back at some highlights from the second race at Brands Hatch. Well, Ethan Sparks started on pole position and was involved in a battle with his teammate Harrison McKay in the opening stages of the race. Ryan Frost was also in the mix as well, and it became a great tussle at the front, including Philip Sorowiak as well as Peter Willis involved in the action. Rain then began to fall in the middle stage of the race as we sadly lost Peter Willis from the action. He had a bit of a crash, which unfortunately removed him from the competition. The sharp end of the race, though, was still occupied by some phenomenal battles up and down the field in this class. Unfortunately, the red flag, as we said, came out due to the adverse weather conditions. The battle for second trunicated due to that. The upshot is it was Ethan Sparks who took victory, Harrison McKay in second place, and Philip Sorowiak in P3 at Brands Hatch. Welcome along to Thruxton then for round 6 of Bennett's BSB. It is time for the first race of the weekend for the RNG British Talent Cup. Looking forward to seeing what is going to happen here for this one, because it's a bit of a step into the unknown in terms of the circuit, in terms of the riders. They're not familiar with this track, and it's very fast and very flowing and likely to be a pretty high energy pack style race. There is Josh Raymond Jr. He's the highest of the Fibertech Hondas in the middle of the second row of the grid. Ben Jalif in the Wilson Racing Honda camp lines up on the head of the front row. The second row rather. On the front row, Julian Correa, and then Ethan Sparks in the middle of it. On board the number 62, the rider who, of course, was victorious twice at Brands Hatch a couple of weeks ago. Philip Sorowiak, though, it is who starts this one on pole position. Can he add to his 4-win tally so far in 2025? We're about to find out. My name is Tom Brooks. Alongside me, Danny Buchan here to guide you through the action. Danny, this is going to be a bit of an exciting race, I reckon. What do you think? Yeah, I really think the guys are going to struggle to get a breakaway. I mean, I've said that in previous races this weekend, and it's happened. So maybe don't listen to me. But I think it's going to be a good race. You know, Philip Sorowiak, he's a bit of a bigger rider compared to Ethan Sparks and the likes of Jack Dunnerby and those sort of guys. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting race. Correa as well, you know, he's going to be in the fight. He's qualified in the front row. So I think we're in for an action-packed race, Tom. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there, Danny. Well, the riders now taking off on their formation lap here at Thruxton. Thankfully, the sun is shining, unlike at Brands Hatch very recently. The weather, thankfully, staying away. And as you can see, beautiful conditions to go racing over the course of this 14-lap race. Let's have a look, though, at the championship standings coming into this one, because it is very tight at the top. Philip Sorowiak it is that leads the Riders' Championship, but he has just a 3-point advantage over Ryan Frost there in second. Ethan Sparks only 13 points away. In fact, he's down to 4th place with Harrison McKay, where you have to go within race winners' distance, as it were, in terms of points between those riders. So very, very tight. Let's run you through the grid, though, for this first race. Philip Sorowiak it is that starts this one on pole position with Ethan Sparks alongside and Julian Correa on the outside of the front row. Row 2, Ben Jalif for Wilson Racing Honda with Josh Raymond Jr. and Jack Dunnerby alongside. Row 3 is Mason Foster with Clayton Edmonds and Ryan Frost for company. Row 4, Dan Goodman, Jack Burrows and Harrison McKay. Row 5 is Peter Willis, George Bowes and Blake Wilson. 6th row of the grid, Alexander Rowan, Sam Munson and Lewis Mullen. And then the 7th row is Scott McPhee with Daniel Stevenson and Jensen Bishop alongside. Row 8 is Isaiah Devine, Josh Williams and Kyle Payne. And then row 9 is Ben Hardwick with Lily Rhodes for company at the very back of the field. Well, the riders now coming through this final chicane, getting ready to line up on the grid for this race. How important is the start for this one going to be here, Danny? Do you think it could make or break some riders' races?
I think not, just because, you know, you've got the long straights, it's a fast, flowy track. So I think, you know, if you don't make the best of start, obviously it's always better to be at the front of the field. But if you don't make the best of starts, I think you've got a lot of you've got a long way to come back just because of the nature of this circuit. So I think, you know, if you can stay out front and have a clear sort of first few laps, give yourself the best chance.
Isaiah Devine just getting himself positioned up there on the Fibertech Honda at the back of the field. Green flag, though, is waved. It is all eyes then to the lights for the riders as we get ready to go green flag racing. 14 laps of action for the R&G British Talent Cup as the revs begin to rise. The lights go out and we go racing. Philip Sorowiak on pole position, but it's Ethan Sparks in the middle of the front row. Gets an absolute stormer into the lead of the race by the first corner. Great start for him. Then great start also for Josh Raymond Jr. from the middle of the second row up into second before we even come into the chicane for the first time. Late on the brakes for Sorowiak there as he sends it through on the inside of Julian Correa for P3 and gets the move done. So making up for what was a pretty difficult initial launch off the line for the number 75.
Yeah, Sorowiak means business. I watched him at the end of practice today, and he looked good. He looked really good, and I think he wants to get himself out. He's obviously won 4 races this year. He's had a couple of DNFs, so Ryan Frost has done a really good job in the championship, just doing that consistent run. But Sorowiak means business, and he wants to win this championship.
Yeah, Clayton Edmonds also coming through as well on board the number 64. Edmonds was 8th on the grid, so he's made a phenomenal start up into 5th place. We go 3 abreast coming in towards Church Corner for the first time. Correa it is that picks the pocket then of Sorowiak as we come through there. But already you can see Ethan Sparks trying to build a gap out at the sharp end of this one. 3 abreast down the back straight for 3rd position, and much the same, very close behind there as well. Jack Dunnerby looking to make some moves and has indeed made a couple of places as well at the expense of a couple of the other riders. Through the chicane we go. Clayton Edmonds a little bit deep into that chicane on board the RS Racing City Lifting bike, but at the end of the first lap it's Ethan Sparks that leads, Josh Raymond Jr. in second, Philip Sorowiak there P3.
Yeah, big mistake by Ethan Sparks into that last turn. He seemed to have pulled about 4 or 5 bike lengths, 4 or 5 tenths, on that first lap, which I was going to say they don't want him to do that, because if he gets away, we saw at Brands Hatch, he's very good. He's learning all the time. He's like a sponge, and he's learning all the time. And I think they can't let him get away. And he made that mistake, and it seems to have brought him right back together. But look, he's just got pace. He looks quick.
Look at Sorowiak there, really wide line coming through that right-hander of turn 6 into the left-hander of turn 7. That's Noble corner as we then come in towards Goodwood, and you can see the difference in that wide line just allowed Sorowiak to get greater drive on towards that straight. Didn't cost him too much time, but you're absolutely right, you don't want to let Sparks run away with this one at the sharp end of it. I went down to talk to Ethan actually at the start of just before the start of this race, and I couldn't get a word in because the team said, look, he's very focused, wants to make sure that, he's ready to go for the race. We don't want to disturb him, so come and chat to us after the race. Completely fair enough. Every rider's got their own mentality, their own way of working.
And you know what I like about that? They've respected it. They've respected the fact that he likes his own space before the race and gets himself into his space.
Jack Dunnerby then it is that looks up the inside and gets the move done with Josh Raymond then. So moves up into 4th position for Jack Dunnerby. That's just about a couple of places ahead of where he started. P6 on the grid for Jack Dunnerby, now up into 4th position. Oh, got a rider that's gone down. That is not Scott McPhee, rather Jensen Bishop that has ended up down the road. Looks like he's at the final chicane by my reckoning. And thankfully he's up and okay and on his feet. Let's work out what happened. Is it the classic front end washout into there? Yeah, it is. Slightly offline, slightly deep into the corner. Bit too much front brake, and down she goes.
Yeah, it's a hard corner, that, and on these bikes they'll be braking super late, a lot of lean angle, so it's really hard to get that right. You've really got to have a good feeling of the front tyre, the front suspension, how the bike's reacting under braking. And as you turn in there, you get more and more lean angle, and you're trying to slow the bike down more and more, so it's quite a technical corner. For such a flat, open, fast track, it can be quite technical here, especially going fast.
Look at the way the top 2 have sort of broken away from the rest of the pack here. Ethan Sparks and Philip Sorowiak, they've got a fair bit of daylight between themselves and Julian Correa, who incidentally was the fastest man last time around.
Yeah, Ethan Sparks is doing a good job. He's just ticking the laps away. He made that mistake at the start of the race, but he seems to have learned from that now. And Sorowiak knows that he cannot let him get away. Look, Dunnerby there we're seeing make the move on Correa. He's having a good season. Dunnerby's having a great season as well. He's small, so I think, he might be able to use Sorowiak a little bit to his advantage if he can. He might even bridge that gap and bring Correa with him. Yeah,
Sorowiak said to me before the start of this one, he said, I'm one of the tallest riders in the field, and that really does play to a disadvantage, especially on a track like this.
Yeah, well, you saw Ethan Sparks off the start line, like the power to weight ratio, I'm no scientist, but it's a pretty obvious thing, and we see Ethan Sparks there do the fastest lap of the race so far. I really like what he's doing. I like the way he goes about his business. Even what you were just saying there, Tom, about the pre-race routine he's got. I love it. what a way of learning, and you know that this is what this British Talent Cup does.
Yeah, almost very Casey Stoner-esque. He didn't like to be talked to on the grid, did he, back in the day? Just saw the two Fibertech Honda teammates exchanging positions. Ryan Frost getting one over on Josh Raymond Jr. for 6th position. Meanwhile, at the sharp end of this one, Soroviak is now really on the back of Ethan Sparks and looks to be like he's going to try and challenge for the race lead. Got a rider that has gone down the road, meanwhile. Further down the order, they're up and okay. Sounds like it's Seagrave that's gone down. And again, he's up and walking away, which is the main thing there. But a shame for him to have ended the race a little bit prematurely. Meanwhile, the sharp end of this one, Sparks still coming under pressure here from Soroviak. And Soroviak there with a tighter line into the chicane. Looked like he was going to try and challenge for position. Meanwhile, look at this, absolutely phenomenal stuff. Mason Foster in the midst of a superb battle with Clayton Edmonds now being shuffled right to the back of it. Two Fibertech Hondas in there as well. You've got Julian Correa, who's lost a few places over the last couple of laps or so. Right at the sharp end of it now, though, is Harrison McKay on the RS Racing machine. You can see he started 12th on the grid. He's now up to P5, so great progress. And look at this right pick off the number 63 of Jack Dunnerby, his teammate, through there as well.
The way he accelerated off that turn into that inside turn was, yeah, it made me take a deep breath there. That was a great pass by McKay. But yeah, the guys are just breaking away at the front. You know, that these, you know, from 3rd place onwards are just not able to sort of handle that pace. And it's really nice to be Soroviak in this situation. You're letting Ethan Sparks do the work. You're just trying to match him and get pulled away. And I really want to know, and I really want to see that when Soroviak's behind him, if he's got any legs in a straight line, because ultimately that's what's going to win this race. You know, even if Ethan Sparks sits behind Soroviak and then waits until the last, you know, couple of laps to lead, you don't care how long you win by, you want to win.
Ryan Frost a bit deep on the curb there, coming through Church Corner. Need to be keep a close eye on that, because the stewards will be keeping a very watchful look at track limits infringements. As Soroviak looks to the inside of race leader Ethan Sparks into the chicane. Again, gets his nose chopped off, but that compromises Sparks' line through the second part of that chicane, and may in turn compromise his drive along the start-finish straight and allow him a chance to retaliate. Soroviak not quite close enough as we come into the first corner. Meanwhile, this is a proper ding-dong squabble for position here. Battle for 3rd place and down, going all the way down to, what's that, about 10th place or so, isn't it?
Yeah, interestingly enough, they've matched the leaders' times. You know, Correa in obviously 5th place, McKay there in 3rd. They've matched the leaders last time on that last lap, so they've got the pace, but they've just managed to break away in the opening part of this race.
Yeah, and that's really what's giving them, you know, a great opportunity to be involved in their own battle. The difficulty is you want to, you know, obviously battle with the rider in front of you or indeed behind you, but you've got to be careful to not lose too much time, because that'll pull you back into that group, won't it?
Exactly that, and Sparks has got that really wide line, you know, that especially into the last chicane, and I really fancy the fact that Soroviak's going to, you know that now, maybe not show his cards too early, and really use that to his advantage on the last lap.
Debut season for Ethan Sparks in the British Talent Cup. Used to compete in the FIM Mini GP series, and the rider from Maidstone, Kent, doing a fantastic job of leading the way. Meanwhile, we're 4 abreast down the back straight for 3rd place, and again Soroviak, he closes up on the brakes here. Again, looks to the inside, but Sparks, maybe that's just his line into the corner. Just seems to take a later apex and shut the door. Yeah,
he's got that bike turning really well. He just seems to be shutting the door, which is making it hard work for Soroviak. But I just don't know if he's going to try and use that to his advantage. You know, last lap, last time through the chicane, you're going to sort of just try and at least get your front wheel ahead.
Julian Correa side by side with Harrison McKay for 3rd place. Correa having had 1 podium finish so far this season. That was Snetterton. Meanwhile, the rider he was battling with is Harrison McKay, and he's had 4 podium finishes this year on board the number 61, the black and green RS Racing Cavara Projects machine. Jack Dunnerby there, just keeping a watching brief. There is a rider directly behind him, and that is Ryan Frost.
Big moment there for Ethan Sparks, just coming through there, obviously out the seat, not really phased him. He's back on the gas. Maybe, I don't know. I got asked this question here. I don't know how much we're going to watch this replay, and I'll go back to what I was going to say. You know, just accelerates, picks, fast through there as well. A little bit of lean angle there. But I don't know, with these bikes, if the tyre life does come into it. I'm not experienced in these classes. I've not raced these classes. I don't know, you know, Thruxton is renowned for this, but I don't know if this affects him. If it does, you know, Ethan Sparks is a lot lighter than Sorowiak, so that will be an advantage for him.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, the lighter the rider, the less strain you're putting on the tyres. You're not going to be spinning up the rear tyres quite as much as you would be on a 600 or a 1000cc bike around this circuit, but they are going to be wearing them out a fair bit. Of course, the only competitors that are on Dunlop tyres are the British Talent Cup riders here this weekend as well. Two RS Racing riders of Harrison McKay and Jack Dunnerby, very close for company. I wonder if they might be able to try and work together. I don't think they're going to be thinking about that quite too much at the moment, but maybe in the latter stages, if it starts getting a bit more elbows out, then maybe they can use their strategies to work together, as we just see Clayton Edmonds getting through on Julian Correa for 5th position. You can see here Philip Sorowiak still all over the coattails of Ethan Sparks, and Sparks going for that wider line. This is where he had that moment last time around, through into the right-hander of Goodwood. Again, takes the wider sweeping lines here, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think Sparks wants to let Sorowiak through. I think he wants to have a little nose at what he's up to, have a look at his lines, you know, because, listen, Sorowiak's doing a good job. He's hanging in there, whether he's taking the same lines or not. Ethan Sparks is going to be thinking, you know, where's he fast, where's he not fast? So I think he wants to let him pass, but I really think Ethan Sparks, you know, his card, his sort of trump card, if you like, is going to be this on the last lap that he's let him pass. Let's see what happens now. Let's see how these next laps go.
You can see he's lifted off the throttle there, coming down that back straight, hasn't he, quite evidently. And Sorowiak through into the racing. Look at the front end of the bikes chattering away. They're proper bespoke racing machine, these Hondas, and they are very, very stiffly set up. They move around a bit less than you would see with the sort of softer, you know, super bikes and super sport machines that we have also on the bill here at BSB, but subsequently they do chatter around and bounce around a lot more. Yeah,
and what's this track made from, Tom? It's an old airfield. You know, when these guys race in the Motor Grand Prix tracks, obviously, you know, they're a lot smoother. These tracks here, you know, it's quite a bumpy track, so these bikes, the poor kids' teeth will be chattering to bits out there, but you know, it's still a brilliant track, super wide, and it'll be super fun on here.
So put some meat on the bones for me here. Ethan Sparks, he's led the race quite commandingly up until this point. He let Sorowiak through without much of a fight at the end of the last lap. Why has he done that?
I think strategically, he's got experienced guys around him. Although he hasn't raced here before, you know, he's got experience racing. You know, Ryan Saxelby has won races here, you know, with Kyle Ryde back in the day and things like that. So he's got a lot of experience, you know. He would have been through stuff, he'd have been looking at the race, they'd have had a bit of a plan in place. And I think he just wants to see what he's doing. Look, he's got up beside him and he's passed him and he's not even used the slipstream.
Do you think he might be using this as a bit of a dress rehearsal, maybe to think, oh, hang on, if we get into the last lap and it ends up being like this, I want to see where I can be stronger than him?
100%. And look how easy he passed him. And he's got a couple of bike lengths there. So I think he's just not playing with him. Oh, this battle here. Oh, my God.
Edmonds, I think, just clattered into the side of Julian Correa and Harrison McKay coming through that final corner. That was always going to end in tears. Such is the bottleneck effect that you get down into that final chicane. Somehow, they all managed to stay upright and make it through the corner in relatively the similar condition to the one that they entered.
This is going to be the fight we're going to want to see. This fight for the podium. You know, we've got six or seven riders in this battle here. And it's going to be crazy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this unfolds, you know, because Ryan Frost has done a good job so far this season of being super consistent. That's why he's second in the championship at the minute. He's not had a DNF. He's been mega consistent, and if you want to win this championship, that's what you've got to do. And he's there, he's in this fight. So if he comes away with 3rd place, despite the fact that he's, you know, 3.5 seconds off, he's still had a 3rd place.
Absolutely. Consistency is what makes champions, as we well know. Fastest laps, by the way. Ethan Sparks it is that's got the quickest one, ahead of Philip Sorowiak, Jack Dunnerby, Ryan Frost, Julian Correa and Harrison McKay. That would be the grid. That would be your top 6 on the grid for the second race of the weekend here tomorrow. Clayton Edmonds with a lot of overspeed there on Harrison McKay coming through Church Corner, but look at how close Ryan Frost is able to get and indeed drag alongside and past him down the back straight. Now we're back at the sharp end and Ethan Sparks it is that leads. Sorowiak again on his coattails, but nothing doing for him at the moment, just biding his time and waiting for the right opportunity. Thankfully behind with this 7-rider scrap for position. A little bit tidier this time around into the final chicane.
Dunnerby impresses me, you know, 14-year-old. I believe it's his 1st season here as well. He impresses me, you know. I know I talk a lot about Ethan Sparks, but Jack Dunderby impresses me. You know, he's having a great race at the minute. We see him lose a place there, but he's doing a good job. You know, they're learning fast, and they're like sponges. They're like little sponges. They just watch everything, and they just, you know, soak up all this information, all this experience. You know, at Brands, it started to rain a little bit. Oh, we're going to see a back marker here get involved. Yeah,
that's number 65 of Lily Rose just moving out of the way, and yeah, she's a little bit further down the order than the other riders, down in 24th place, fair way off the back of Isaiah Devine and so on. But yeah, a little bit of work for her to do, but the top two just able to get ahead without too much of a bother. Everybody else, they're about 24 seconds up the road, so I shouldn't imagine we'll see another back marker featuring towards the end of this one, but never say never. Coming down in towards the chicane we go. Now, what about Soroviak? He's in the slipstream here, but we know he's a bigger rider in terms of stature and in terms of weight subsequently as well. Can he get the better on the brakes against Ethan Sparks? Well, Sparks defending that inside line quite nicely, taking the later apexes we've seen quite consistently and holding position for now. McKay there with his teammate Jack Dunderby behind. Clayton Edmonds also involved in the mix. RS Racing could be on for a 1, 2, 3, 4. Here, maybe even a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if the Fibertech Hondas that are just roughing up Clayton Edmonds through the first corner have got anything to do with it, they'll be trying to change that order.
Yeah, RS Racing's going to have a 10, 11, 12, 15, 16, 18 as well. The amount of bikes he's got out on the grid. He's no, they're doing a great job. You know, they're a great team, a lot of experience, and yeah, they're doing a good job there, the guys. And it'd be nice to see Harrison McKay on the podium. You know, obviously he's nearly won that race at Snetterton and got it taken off him, which is you know, is what it is, but he's doing a good job there. This fight, honestly, is going to be incredible. The last few laps, this is going to be incredible because it's changing so fast, but Dunderby seems to have just made a bit of a gap there. That's the kind of gap that will break them away from the clutches of everyone else.
Yeah, incredibly fine margins here in this championship. You just see a few more bike lengths than we've seen the last time around. The difficulty is if those two riders start squabbling amongst one another, but now they're together on track. This is what I was saying earlier on. I wonder if they might be able to try and work together, use each other, you know, bring each other along with the slipstream and just continue building that breakaway. But almost in the space of a couple of corners, that gap shrinks down just a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, like the NASCAR effect when they work together with a teammate, or they pick somebody to work together, sort of pull them away. But yeah, I really don't know how that's going to unfold, but I just think Ethan Sparks, you talk about winning this race, I just think he's got the upper hand. I think he's had a little look, you know. Soroviak is, and maybe is, the faster rider of the two of them, but he cannot pass him anyway. You know, where Sparks is fast, you know, where Phillips fast, sorry, on the brakes and through this tight section, Ethan's managing it really well. So I just don't know. I'll be, you know, I'll be surprised if Soroviak can win this race.
Well, 2 wins in the last 2 races for Ethan Sparks. A bit like London buses. You wait all season and then 2 come along at once. Can he add a 3rd to that tally here this afternoon? 4 victories subsequently for Philip Soroviak. Would love to add to that tally and increase his championship lead, especially with Ryan Frost, who's involved in this pack. Ryan Frost is Soroviak's closest championship challenger. And the thing is, he could finish 3rd, but he could very well finish 8th or 9th at this point. You don't know how it's going to work out. So anything that Soroviak can do to increase that lead in the championship as we enter the latter stages of it would be a very welcome result for him.
Yeah, and you know, this battle here, you do not know who's going to be on the podium, because on the last lap, there could be, you know, 4 or 5 of them changing positions. So we've seen it over the years, you know, it could happen now. So if Frost can be on that podium, that's his objective right now. You know, he's getting beaten up a little bit, he's in a tussle. As we scan back, as we flick back over to Ethan Sparks. You are right though, Tom, that he is his line there. You know, that's his way of riding through that turn. It's not doing him bad.
Yeah, it seems to be doing okay so far, but it's interesting how we were talking about McKay and Dunderby last time around, how they had a bit of daylight between them and wondering whether that was going to be the gap to break away. Well, no, was the answer, because the group all the way down to Mason Foster in 9th place is now, as it has been for pretty much the entirety of this one. We're now on the final lap of racing. Ethan Sparks it is that leads, with Philip Soroviak close on his heels. Through the chicane we go, out of turn 5, and then through into the fast sweeping corners as makes over this circuit. Look over the shoulder there for Ethan Sparks just to see where Philip Soroviak is, and I wonder how Soroviak is going to play this. Where is he going to choose his opportunities to strike against his teammates? Coming down into the right-hander, Sparks has got that line quite nicely covered through into Goodwood Corner. Coming in towards Village, though, and Church Corner, the fastest part of this Thruxton circuit is where you would imagine he's going to try and kick off. And Soroviak has got the outside line here against Ethan Sparks. Switches back to the inside, but nothing doing through there. It is surely going to come down to the final chicane, but a big wobble that might just compromise the drive here for Filip Sorowiak and deny him an opportunity to lunge one through on the inside as we come into this chicane. He's a bit far back, and it's going to be a damn dare move on the brakes if he can make it stick. But I think Ethan Sparks has got this one done, but he in turn has a wobble and runs it wide into the chicane. The door's open for Sorowiak. No, it's not. Side by side we go. Sorowiak to the line here in British Talent Cup. Wins it. Absolutely phenomenal for Filip Sorowiak. Ethan Sparks comes home in second place, and on the podium is Harrison McKay in third position ahead of Ryan Frost. What a phenomenal race for RS Racing in particular. All three riders on the podium positions here at Thruxton, but Filip Sorowiak manages to mug Ethan Sparks right in the final stages of that one, Danny.
Yeah, and that was his to lose. Unfortunately, Sorowiak, he wouldn't have known that Sorowiak had that moment there at that at Village, and he just had to brake as late as he could. He lost the front a little bit. It looked like it was chattering a little bit, and he just couldn't pull himself back. And he did well not to run across the chicane, in fairness. But listen, Sorowiak done a great job. He kept himself in the fight the whole time, and he didn't let him go. And he won the race. It was a great finish, and that's what Sorowiak needs to keep doing if he wants to win this championship.
Victory number 5 for Filip Sorowiak extends his lead in the championship. Ethan Sparks, fastest lap in the race, so some consolation is that he'll be on pole position here at Thruxton tomorrow. But you could see from the body language when his teammate was celebrating with him last time around how dejected he is to have lost out on that victory. And I have to say, going into that last chicane, I thought Filip was a little bit too far back. I thought, that moment coming out of Church Corner, that's it, done and dusted. But then Ethan Sparks, just a bit too late on the brakes, had that front end wobble, and that's what compromised it. Let's have a look. So this is the moment here for Sorowiak. Gets the rear on the shape, grips up again, costs him drive all the way down into the chicane. So you can see that Ethan's pulled out, 2 or 3 bike lengths. But coming into here, Sparks late on the brakes. He's taken that wider line all race, just has a wobble on the front end. The door opens for Sorowiak, cuts back to the inside. Sparks is deep and over the curb, back through for Sorowiak, and that's how you do it. Win number 5 of the season for Filip Sorowiak on the RS Racing machine.
Yeah, that's a great win for Filip, and he's probably seen this move over the last couple of years happen here, but Ethan Sparks will take this, he'll learn from it. Like I said about being sponges earlier, he'll learn from it. He'll go, right, last time I was a bit too keen here, I pushed the front too hard there. I'm going to go away, I'm going to look at how I can improve, and I'm going to come back and do that. And something I also wanted to touch on, Tom, just quickly, is the lap time did drop, so I do think the tyre wear was affected throughout that race. Yeah, no doubt about it. Filip Sorowiak then takes victory here at Thruxton to extend his lead in the championship. What a phenomenal result. What a fantastic end to that race for the rider from Morden in South London. And let's get confirmation then of the results for race 1 of the R&G British Talent Cup. Filip Sorowiak takes his 5th win of the season ahead of Ethan Sparks. Harrison McKay in 3rd position ahead of Ryan Frost, Mason Foster, Julian Correa, Jack Dunnerby, Josh Raymond Jr., Clayton Edmonds. All of those riders from 3rd down to 9th involved in that battle for the final podium position, and that's how it worked out. Peter Willis was over the line just inside of the top 10 on board the number 99 Honda machine. Further outside of it, Ben Jalif started from the head of the second row of the grid, but he comes home in 11th position. He'll be disappointed with that result ahead of George Bowes, with Blake Wilson, Jack Burrows and Dan Goodman completing the points finishes here this afternoon. The championship standings coming into this one saw Filip Sorowiak with a 3-point advantage over Ryan Frost. That is now increased up to 15 points. Ethan Sparks into 3rd place in the championship as well. He was at a 13-point deficit to Sorowiak. It's now 18 points as well. So gaps still increasing at the sharp end of this championship, and it's all to play for further down the order here as well. So good points on the board for some riders, and some who I'm sure will be looking forward to making progress tomorrow.
I ran on it too, right, at the very on the slowdown lap, and I still. So. Right, down here with Harrison McKay. Sorry, Harrison, I didn't get a key there. Fantastic battle you were involved in there. Looked like you had a load of fun. How was the race for you?
Yeah, I did better than I thought, really, starting P12 after having a little bit of a problem in qualifying. But, great race, really tough. It's just the wind is so strong, you've got to be able to calculate where you want to be on the final lap and with slipstream and stuff like that. So I'm really happy.
You did a fantastic job. Onwards and upwards for tomorrow?
Yeah, definitely.
Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Right, Ethan Sparks. That was so nearly a win. Small mistake. Looked like you pushed the front really, really hard into the last chicane there. Just ran a little bit wide and ended up losing out on the run to the flag. How was the race for you?
Yeah, it was mean. It was a difficult race. The wind was really bad out there, and I struggled a lot. I had quite a few moments around some fast corners, which sort of knocked my confidence a little bit. And obviously, the last lap, I thought Philip would be in my slipstream. So when I realised he didn't go past, I thought he was going to try and outbrake me. So I just pushed the front a little too hard, hit a bump, and went wide. So it's unlucky, but it was a good race. So.
Do you want a little tip?
What?
Don't go so wide at turn 8. You were out over the banding at turn 8 a few times in that race. I saw the front bobbling about a little bit. Try and keep it in a bit tighter.
Yeah, thank you.
Right, there you go, second place. Philip Zwerjak, that was a perfectly timed manoeuvre. You must have thought all your Christmases come at once at that last chicane.
Yeah, no, it's good. I've recovered from my injury at Brands, and this weekend I've been really strong. With the wind, I knew there was no chance of anyone pulling away, but to be fair, me and Ethan, we weren't mucking around. I kind of just stayed behind him most of the race, and we ended up pulling a gap, which it's always better to fight for first or second than be in a big messy group. So yeah, that final lap, I did time it. I had quite a big moment through church, and then I thought it was over, but I didn't do anything stupid into the final chicane. Didn't outbrake myself, kept a cold head, and then managed to get the exit and the run to the line. So yeah, I'm really happy, and I really enjoyed the race.
Fantastic performance. Wish you the best of luck for tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
Philip Zwerjak takes victory number 5 of 2025. Well, Ethan Sparks will be about as happy as a polar bear in the Canaries after missing out on victory in the closing stages of that one, but still points on the board for him. Definitely keeps him in the championship challenge as we enter the latter stages of the 2025 season. Now waiting for our top 3 to make their way on to the podium in the sunshine here at Thruxton. Harrison McKay, P3 for him, from 12th on the grid. That was a phenomenal ride. And a great result also for the RS Racing team. As we said, top 3 positions occupied by those bikes. Great for Ryan Saxelby and the team. Ethan Sparks there, P2 for the youngster in his rookie season. Philip Zwerjak, a little bit more experienced in this championship, but victory number 5 of the year. Certainly starting to stamp his authority at the top of the order by extending his lead in the Riders' Championship here this afternoon. To the delight of the family, the friends and the fans that have come out here in Andover, in Hampshire. And now the podium celebrations about to begin. The trophies being presented. Philip Zwerjak taking the winner's trophy for the 5th time this season, extending his lead in the Riders' Championship. A second race along the way for the R&G British Talent Cup here tomorrow afternoon at Thruxton. Highlights from the first race of the R&G British Talent Cup saw Philip Zwerjak starting on pole position, but it was Ethan Sparks who got an absolute flyer away from the lights to lead in the early stages of the race. Zwerjak actually dropped a little bit further down the pack than I'm sure he would have liked, with Josh Raymond Jr. coming through in the early stages. However, it quickly became apparent that Sparks and Zwerjak had greater pace compared to their rivals and built out a big buffer compared to everybody else. They were involved in their own battle, which went along all race long, meaning that the squabble behind from 3rd down to 9th place for the final podium position was always going to be an exciting and dramatic affair. We saw Sparks and Zwerjak exchanging places throughout the entirety of the race. This was a moment on the final lap for Zwerjak, possibly costing him a bit of drive, but then another moment for Sparks into the final chicane allowed the door to be open for Zwerjak, which he gladly walked through to take his 5th win of the season in spectacular style here at Thruxton and extending his lead in the championship.